You've probably noticed before that the English word woman contains the word man, but what exactly is the woe part? Well, if we look back at the etymology of this word, we can see that in Old English, the word was weave man. And once again, you probably don't need me to tell you that that word contains weave, which of course can be related to the modern English word wife, which in modern English means a married woman. However, if we look up this word in Old English in the dictionary, we can find that it has several meanings. One, meaning three, is indeed a married woman, a wife, as we know it in modern English. But meanings one and two are simply of a woman, a female person, a being in the form of a woman. So it has a broader meaning than it does in modern English. So then how did weave man become woman, and why did the meaning exactly change? Well, over time, the vowel sounds of English changed so that in the Middle English period, we have several different pronunciations of this word appearing. However, we still have a small relic of the fact that this word was once pronounced as weave man in the plural, because while we have one woman, we have two women, so we can still hear the I sound that is still a relic from the time when it was weave man. What's interesting though is that English is not alone in constructing its word for woman in this way. In fact, if we look at the branch of the West Germanic languages in which we find English and go across to the Frisian branch, we can find some very interesting parallels. Now, if we go over to Frisian, or Fries as it is called, it is the Frisian that is spoken in a very small part of Germany. The only surviving of the East Frisian languages, we find a word for woman, which is Viewmask. Now, what's interesting about this word is that actually it looks a little bit like the word woman when we break it down. And indeed, if we look at the first element of this word, we can indeed see that this is the same woe from an Old Frisian root, vief. So it has had a similar development to the woe in English woman from weave man from the Old Frisian weave. And actually, if we look at the second part, which is slightly harder to see, but that actually comes from the Old Frisian word maniska. This may look rather different to man, it's significantly longer, but in actual fact the Proto-Germanic word, so the reconstructed word from which both the Frisian and the English have come, was something like maniskas. So Old Frisian in this case is more conservative, and that ska ending has survived into the modern day in Southern Frisian, and that is why we find this word. Now, if we go over to the West Frisian area, the area where the most Frisian speakers today live, we can find, as you probably can already predict, a similar form. But wait a minute, this doesn't look like woman or Viermonske at all. What's going on with this word? Well, even though it looks completely different, it actually is exactly the same thing here, except that the first part of this word is from the word vrouw, which is an Old Frisian word for woman. Now see that we have a different root here. We don't have this weave root as we saw for the other two. This coincidentally is the same root from which we get the Dutch word for a woman, vrouw, which is also the Dutch word for a wife, and indeed the German words Frau, Fraulein, and things like this. However, the second part of this word, frommes, is actually again from the Old Frisian maniska, which in West Frisian became meeske. And this is the word for a person, man in the broader sense, humankind, meeske. So we get frommes. West Frisian does also have the same root words for weef, for example. So in modern West Frisian, the word weef can simply mean a woman. It's not like English wife, where it refers specifically to a married woman. This can be any kind of woman. It's got a bit of a bad rap more recently because the word in Dutch, wijf, has negative connotations. However, in Frisian, it has no negative connotations. But because of influence from Dutch, a lot of people avoid using weef now, even though it's a fine word to use. Interestingly, it's quite similar to the way that the Geordie dialect uses the word wife, where in standard English, you can only use wife for a married woman. In Geordie, you can say, yeah, you seen that wife over there? She's proper lifting, man. And in which case, you can be referring to a woman in general, a woman who is not married. It doesn't have to be a married woman. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. This has been quite a random video, but it's a fun little coincidence that I saw between both the Frisian branches of the Anglo-Frisian languages and English. So that woman is a little bit harder to see that it has come from weef man, but interesting that we have the same way to construct the word woman, where we have that word weef and then that word man together. Anyway, I hope this has been interesting. Thanks for watching, dank for het zien, and see you in the next one.